Hello, whistleblowers everywhere. Today I'm going to do a quick rundown of the different types of dance music in traditional Irish music. Saying that, I mean a lot of these dance music forms appear in other traditions, such as Scots music or even some Welsh music have jigs and hornpipes and reels and that kind of thing. But I'm looking at specifically sort of traditional Irish dance music and how the rhythms are sort of put together and how they should sound. A lot of the time people say, well, I've got the time and I've got the rhythm, but it just doesn't sound very Irish. It doesn't sound very dancey kind of thing. So I think what's important to realise is we can have the rhythm when we can playing in time, but a lot of the time it's how we feel the rhythm with the specific dances. So I'm going to be using some of these online on YouTube, some of the Bowron metronomes to sort of demonstrate the rhythm, and I'm going to play along with some of them so you can hear how we put the sort of the emphasis on certain beats in different tunes and different dance rhythms. So let's start off with looking at probably one of the most common ones, which is jig time. Yeah. So let's do the jig first, and then we'll move on and have a look at the other variants of the jig, like the slip jig and the slide, and then we'll have a look at some of the others, such as reels, hornpipes, and polkas. Yeah. So let's start with the jig first. So the jig is written in what's called 6/8 time. That's 6/8 notes or 6 quavers in every bar. However, 6/8 is what's known as compound time, and compound time means that the two groups or the two groups of 3 which make up the 6/8 can be divided into exactly that, 2 groups of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me, with the emphasis being on the first and the fourth beat. 1. So if I just play a little bit of the Bowron metronome, I just have a listen to how the beats fall and where the accents are on the beat. Yeah. So here we go. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you can hear yakata dakata yakata dakata. It's got movement, yeah. So if I play a tune, let's choose a jig, say down the back lane, for instance. Now if I play it completely flat, I'll show you the difference it makes when you add a little bit of rhythm to your playing. So I mean, it sounds okay, but it doesn't have much life to it. It doesn't have that kind of swing that that a lot of the Irish music has. So in order to get that swing, I'm using the rhythm, that 1 and 4, to accent certain notes. So if I play it now with the swing, you can hear the difference. So So what I'm doing is I'm shortening certain notes or accenting by using cuts, and sort of getting separation by using some tonguing as well. And I think that sounds better, it sounds more in keeping. And certainly when we play along with the bodhrán, I've set it to 120, which is plenty fast enough for what we need it. But I wanted to do it at sort of almost like proper sort of jig tempo, rather than do it slowing down, so you can hear the kind of flow that you're supposed to get with this. So it's the and you can hear this in the bodhrán. It's accenting the 1 and the 4, certainly the 4 on this one. Anyway, so I'm going to play it along with the bodhrán so you can hear how it will sound. So here we go. So that gives you an idea about adding a little skip in the jigs, and it just makes it more rhythmic, and that's what we want to try and get, this wap ba 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 ba, that nice kind of flowing, more danceable, I think, more rhythmic. Yeah, we can play like this. I think it's so much more interesting and so much more rhythmic to add that swing. To my ears, at least, that sounds a lot more like a jig than just playing the notes with the correct rhythm, yeah? So it's so we're giving it that kind of swing on the jig. So just to recap on the jig, yeah, it's 6/8 time, but with it being compound time, we count it in 2 groups of 3. And also think about sort of adding that rhythmic component on the 1 and the 4, so you're giving it a bit of a lift on those beats, yeah? Okay, so that's the jig. Let's have a look now at the slip jig. So the jig is in 6/8, the slip jig is in 9/8. So the jig is in 6/8 time, which is 2 groups of 3. The slip jig is in 9/8, so that's 9 quavers or 9/8 notes, and it's divided into 3 groups of 3. So the jig is ya da 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 da. The slip jig is ya da 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 da. So again, we can play a slip jig and we can play all the notes flat. But again, it won't have the life unless we add that little kind of rhythmic skip. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 4 and 7 are where the sort of accents would be on the first beat of each group of 3. So I can't find a slip jig bodhrán metronome on YouTube. There used to be one, but it seems to have disappeared. So unfortunately, we're going to have to make do with just me sounding out the rhythm. But I'm going to play the butterfly because that's a well-known slip jig. I'm going to play it flat, and then I'm going to add the little skip like the jig, and you can hear the difference, yeah, as some accents in certain notes by using tonguing and using ornamentation. That brings out the rhythm of the 9/8 slip jig. So I'll play it straight first. So that's the basic tune. When we add the ornaments, the cuts and the tonguing, it'll bring it to life. So that was fairly flat. Still the tune, and it still works, but this is what happens when we learn the rhythm and get the accents in the right place. So So you can hear it sort of brings it to life, it animates the music and it makes it more rhythmic but also eminently more kind of listenable and ultimately more danceable too, because you've got like yeah da 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 yeah da 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 da, emphasizing that rhythm by using ornamentation, but I'm also using sort of shortening certain notes. So if you listen to the the last part, sort of pushing it, yeah. Now you can do that with tonguing, or you can do that with ornamentation. You can even do it by using your breath, by pushing. I'm using a bit more of that push with my abdomen on that to sort of lift out. So it adds another dimension to the tune. It gives it a little bit more structure, but it also gives it more life. And to my ears, it just sounds infinitely better rather than playing it completely flat. So that's the slip jig. Sorry I couldn't find a Boweron backing for that, but hey, there used to be a couple on there now, but I've tried to find one, and as hard as I try to find one, I can't find just the Boweron on its own. I can find sort of slip jigs with a Boweron, but with a tune on it, but not just the Boweron on its own. So I don't know if it's disappeared or what's happened to it. Maybe it'll come back. I hope it does come back. But there's a couple of really nice Boweron rhythms in slip jig time in 9/8. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is the slide, which is in 12/8. So the regular double jig is in 6/8, the slip jig is in 9/8, and the slide is in 12/8. And we count the slide. 4 groups of 3. So we've gone from 2 groups of 3 with the jig, 3 groups of 3 with the slip jig, and now we've got 4 groups of 3 with the slide. Now slides are very popular in County Kerry. If you go over to County Kerry, and a lot of the sessions, they are play a lot more slides than sort of are played elsewhere. It's the place for polkas and slides is County Kerry, so they have their own sort of little take on their own traditional music there. But they are played in sessions in other places as well. It's just that in County Kerry, Slieve Lucre area, they are a lot more predominant with their slides and certainly polkas as well. So unlike the jig and the slip jig, slides tend to be played a lot flatter, and so that we don't tend to accent the 1, 3, first beat, the 4th beat and the 7th beat, or the 1st beat and the 4th beat like on the normal jig and the slip jig. Here we're playing it a lot flatter and a lot straighter, so it's going degada 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 degada. Yeah, so there's not as much kind of movement, and this is because they're played a lot faster, and it's more like a tripleted kind of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yakada dagada 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 dagada. So the slide is often played fairly fast and a lot straighter. So I found a Boweron playing a slide. Just have a listen to the rhythm. So you can hear the digga-da-dun, digga-da-dun, digga-da-digga-da, digga-da-dun, digga-da-dun, digga-da-dun. That's fairly sort of moderate tempo for a slide. They're normally played, or can be played, a heck of a lot faster than that. But if I play a slide for you now, it's a common one, often played, called The Star Above the Garter. Now you can hear there, I'm not emphasising any of the beats particularly. It's played a lot straighter and a lot flatter. And that's how slides are. They're more of a kind of tripleted 4 than in a yeah da 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 da. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play along with the bow run so you can hear how that fits in. So here we go. Okay, so that's the slide, and it differs from the jig and the slip jig in so much as that we don't really want to try and emphasize any of those beats in particular, because we want more of a 4 feel rather than that jaunty yeah da 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 da. Now if we were to do it yeah da 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 da, if we were to play it like that, so for example, then we'd just be playing the same tune but in jig time. Yeah, so listen to the difference when I play in 12/8. Yeah, a lot flatter. We're not accenting certain beats there, we're playing it much flatter, a lot straighter, and obviously a lot quicker as well. So that's the slide. 12/8. So we've done the jig 6/8, the slip jig 9/8, and the slide 12/8. Let's have a look at some 4 and 2 rhythm tunes now. So let's start off with the polka. So polkas are written in 2, and we're counting 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah, da 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 da. So I've got a polka metronome. This is fairly fast. This is at 140, and polkas are played like slides, fairly up tempo. So this would be sort of fairly standard for a typical sort of polka rhythm and a polka kind of speed. So have a listen to this. Here we go. One two one two one two one two one da 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 da. One two da 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 da. One two 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 one two. So that's the polka rhythm. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So let me pull that back to the beginning again. I'm going to play a very popular John Ryan's polka. This is one that most people will know, and you can hear how that works with the rhythm. So here we go. Ryan's polka. As you can hear, again, we've got a little skip. Yeah, da, 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 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I'm using, again, sort of cuts and some tonguing, shortening certain notes to give it that little skip, yeah? So I'm shortening that note. I have to play it completely flat, and I'll play it with the skip, yeah? Fine, sounds pleasant enough, but when I add the little sort of rhythmic nuances, it brings it, again, animates it, brings it to life. So, adding a little bit of shortening some notes, adding a few little cuts just to accent, yeah? And a few little sort of trilly bits, really. So a polka, I mean, often played very fast. So that's the kind of speed you could expect to play a polka at a session, perhaps in Kerry. Again, maybe even faster, but speed isn't everything, you know. And the important thing is to get the feel. So even just to play it. Which is probably fairly slow for a polka, but you're getting that rhythm, yeah? Again, if I was to play it flat, adding a little skip. So again, I'm adding that little skip by shortening certain notes, accenting certain notes, and just adding a little bit of weight to certain beats in the room. Just brings it more to life, adds a bit of animation to it. So that's the polka in 2/4. Let's have a look at a hornpipe next, yeah? So hornpipe, which is in 4. So the hornpipe is counted in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And oftentimes you'll find that it has what's called a dotted rhythm, slightly uneven. Ya da 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 da. Humpty Dumpty, Humpty Dumpty, Humpty Dumpty, ya da 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 da. Yeah, and oftentimes hornpipes are played like that, but not always. Sometimes hornpipes can be played straight. So I'll show you the difference first before we have a listen to the hornpipe rhythm on the bodhrán. So if I play a tune called The Rights of Man, which is the hornpipe, I'll play it with the skip in it and then I'll play it straight, and you'll hear it played both ways. So here we go. heard this, and oftentimes it's played flat and straight. So. So again, it depends, and there's no hard and fast rule whether to put the skip in the hornpipe or whether to play it straight. It's personal preference really, and it depends if you're playing it as a session, it depends on what the consensus is at the session. But I have heard that tune called The Rights of Man played with the skip and without the skip as well. So it's up to you really, choose which version you like. I tend to play the Home Ruler fairly flat and straight, because the Rights of Man fairly flat and straight, and then I go into a tune called the Home Ruler, which I also play fairly flat and straight. But you can put that little that little dotted rhythm, and oftentimes hornpipes are played like that with a dotted rhythm. So here's the rhythm. That's a hornpipe with a dotted feel, and again, as I said, we've got counting in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, da, 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 da. But even though it's written in 4, we tend to count it in what's called cut common time, which is 2, 2. So it's 2 groups of 2. 1, 2, down. It's where you would tap your foot if you're playing a hornpipe. 2, 1, 2. So yeah, da 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 da. So I go into the Home Ruler. Yeah, you can hear how it's played with a dotted rhythm. But as I say, when I play The Rights of Man and then this tune, the Home Ruler, I tend to play it straight. So I'm playing the last time of the Rights of Man and go into the Home Ruler, so you can hear the difference. Flat and straight, or added with a little skip in it. Again, it's kind of a preference really how you want to play it. And I've heard hornpipes played flat and straight, and I've heard them played oftentimes with a little skip in it. So again, it varies, and I vary whether I put a skip in the actual hornpipe or whether I play it flat, depending on the melody. And I just think, personally speaking, some hornpipe melodies sound better played with a skip in them, and some sound, to my ear, sound better when you played sort of straighter with less of a skip and more of a regular kind of 4 rather than that dotted rhythm. But that's hornpipes for you folks, written in 4/4, but more often counted in 1, 2, 2, in cut common time or 2, 2 time. Right, so The next one on the list is the reel, and lots to say about reels. So they're counted in 4, but like hornpipes, often you'll find that it's much easier to count them in 2/2 or cut common time. So let's have a look at a reel now. So reels, generally played at fairly up tempo, but can be played slowly, and speed can vary quite a lot. So if you listen to sort of certain tunes, they're played as a slow reel, which is kind of more like a straight hornpipe. So if I play this tune called The Dimmers, it's more of a slow reel. So there is such a thing as a slow reel, and some tunes sound lovely played a little bit slower, more sort of in keeping with a sort of flat hornpipe sort of feel. But usually speaking, you're generally going to find reels played a lot more up tempo. Now they can be played sort of at a moderate tempo, or sometimes at sessions they can be played at a flat out crazy fast tempo. I like reels to be played, or if I'm playing a reel, anywhere between 100 up to about 120. Certain reels I like to play faster than others, just because that's the way I hear them. But again, at sessions, you're gonna find reels played at 120 and even sort of like north of 120. So you can get 130 and even at some, I suppose, maybe up to 140, which is a little bit too fast for me, really. I think anything from about 96 to about, I think 120 is about my breakneck limit for reels. But again, lots of regional different variations. Some have a little swing in them. Some reels, some styles play reels flat and straight. Some of them play with a bit of a skip in the beat. Yeah, so. Again, I tend to play different reels with different feels, depending on how it feels right to me. And again, you know, it's all about where you want to sort of add the life to it. So this is your basic Bowron beat, 100. So, with that, again, rather than counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm counting it in cut common. 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, down, where your foot would naturally tap the beat. And I always think it's easier to do that on certain tunes. So, I'm going to play a tune in the flat way of playing with the metronome, Bowron metronome. 100. I'm going to play a tune called Paddy on the Railroad. It's also known as the Merry Blacksmith. So here we go. Played fairly flat and fairly straight, and again what I'm doing is I'm accenting here, first beat and the third beat, yeah. again, bringing it to life. If I play it completely flat and straight, you can hear the difference. Now with a bit of added zing to it. It's got more life to it, you're animating it, yeah, it's got a bit more of a skip to it. So again, with the reel, what you can do, and a lot of people play reels with a bit of a skip in it, and certainly it's more of a regional thing to play certain reels with a bit more of a swing to it, which I quite like for certain reels. So if I play the same reel, Paddy on the Railroad or the Merry Blacksmith, and I'm going to put a little bit of a swing in it, you can hear the difference. So playing it straight. Or with a swing. Now that'll depend on what the session's doing, what the bodhrán player is doing, because if I played the bodhrán and try and skip or swing this reel with a straight bodhrán, it's not really going to work. Because the bodhrán's playing the straight beat, it wants to pull me into playing it flatter. So again, so the bodhrán player really does have control of the rhythm, and again, it's a regional thing, it's a stylistic thing, whether or not you want to swing the rhythm and make it sort of more of a swing kind of jaunty rhythm, or whether you want to play it flat. I mean, again, I do that with certain reels. A Gorman's reel, for instance, I tend to play that with a nice swing. Obviously without the mistake that I did there, but you get the idea. It's got like a swing to it. Now, if I was to play that flat, you can hear the difference. So that's the reel for you. Lots to think about in terms of accents, in terms of ornamentation, and giving it feel, and whether or not you want to swing the reel, swing the rhythm and make it more sort of bouncy, or whether you want to just play it flat. And again, it's a regional, it's a stylistic way of playing, and different styles, different regions, and it's not that there's one right way or one wrong way. It just depends on how you feel it, really. Most important thing is to try and make it lively and animated, and again, that's to do with how you with the reel, the 1 and 3. So you're going to accent on the 1. It's where you would tap your foot, yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it for sort of dance rhythms. I know there's a few other ones which we haven't done, like mazurkas and some more of the regional style stuff. Like in Donegal they play Highlands, which are kind of almost like strathspeys. But I just want to concentrate on the main sort of core of the dance music. So we've done the double jig or the jig. We've done the slip jig. We've done the slide, we've done the polka, and we've done the reel. So that's 5 of the main sort of dance tunes or dances that are. There are other dances, there are set dances which follow certain patterns, and oftentimes you'll find that they have a kind of uneven amount of bars, so they have certain dances associated with them. There's a few. There's one called the Blackbird, which is a set dance, and that's got kind of like a funny amount of uneven bars in it. There's a tune called The Job of Journey Work. There's a few set dances, but they're sort of specific dances which are done to a certain tune. So we haven't looked at those. I mean, in future videos I may look at those and go over those particular tunes which are associated with a specific dance. As I mentioned, we haven't gone over mazurkas. There's not too many of them played. There are a few, but it's more of a kind of more of a novelty thing really these days. I'm sure there's lots of people who come up and say, well, I play tons of mazurkas, but most sessions when you go to, they'll very rarely, if ever, play any of the sort of mazurkas. You've got waltzes as well, which are in 3/4. And you've got other sort of variants like the hop jig, and you've got things like the single jig, which is different again. But we're just concentrating on what I call the big 5, which is the double jig, the slip jig, the slide, the polka, and the reel. Oh, sorry, I forgot the hornpipe. So that's 6, the big 6, sorry, not the big 5. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for now on sort of dance music and the basic dance music. There are lots of others which have slid into the tradition, but I'm not going to cover them in this video. I think that's enough with the 6 of them. So we've got the jig, the slip jig, the slide, the polka, the hornpipe, and the reel. So that's 6 different dance tunes. And again, think about how you're playing them, and think about the rhythm, and think about adding sort of animating them a bit more rather than just sort of playing them flat. And again, that's to do with the tonguing, to do with the accents of where you're putting those accents. Of course you can accent without tonguing. I just find by clipping certain notes and adding a little bit of tongued articulation, it helps me more easily get the rhythm that I'm after. So for me, that works better. There are styles of whistling that use very little tonguing, and they achieve that sort of liveliness by breath, by pushing, using abdominal breathing and pushing from your abdomen, which used to be called your diaphragm, but it's a bit of a misnomer. That diaphragmatic breathing, yeah, it's using your abdominal muscles to push the wall of your stomach. Yeah, you're pushing air through that. So lots to think about. Again, as ever, thanks for sticking with me through this video. I hope you found it useful. I'm sure there's lots of things which can be added to what I've said. This is just a kind of basic breakdown of what I do with the different various dance styles and dance music to enhance it and to make it more rhythmic. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, then if you would like to subscribe, like the video, subscribe it, and yeah, pass it on to whoever you think might find this useful. So I'm going to come back fairly shortly with a couple of tune breakdowns. I've been asked, I've got a few requests which I'm working my way through. So hopefully we'll see you soon. I'm over 900 subscribers as well, which is great for me. But my biggest wish is to get over 1,000. So if you know of anyone who might find this useful, if you could pass it on to them, and if they could subscribe, then that would be great. My big goal for this coming year, well, for the rest of this year, is to get up to 1,000 and over subscribers. That's when the magic will really happen. Okay, folks, I shall see you soon. Bye for now.